Hey everyone, we're here with a couple of guys. We call them Ted and Jeff from Museum of Light. They have a new album coming out March 21st on Spartan Records called Diviner. Uh, really awesome vinyl variants. They've the Black Marble and then the other one, it's UAP, I think is what it's listed at as on Bandcamp. Uh, it's a mix of fucking colors. It looks cool as shit. So,
Yeah,
uh,
we have all kinds of nicknames internally for that one because it's harder to describe. It's sort of like this black semicircular edges, and then there's like a tan gold color, and then red in the middle. We sometimes call it the black-eyed pea or the bean because it has all kinds of weird shapes. It's certainly unique. It's really cool.
You should have just called it the bean, dude, like
I
that.
know, I know.
The
Uh,
UAP
I think
stands for something, and I can't remember what John said it was, so I'm going to have to defer. Unidentified something. Just let's just go with
oh,
that.
oh, I know what it is. It's unidentified aerial phenomena, which is the new word for UFO.
Yes, that's what it is. That's what it is. See, this is fantastic. All I had to do was give you one word of the acronym, and you were able to pick up the slack for me, Ted. This is good work.
Yes,
Okay.
teammates. That's how it goes. Like,
Yeah.
I'm fucking up. You got me? Yep, I got you. Let's do this.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
shit.
Happens
So
a lot.
like I think the first question that I'm gonna ask you guys is like, how did Museum of Light come to be, or what was the catalyst for it?
Yeah. So Museum of Light, I'll just jump on this one since Jeff came a little bit later to us, and we're really glad he did. But we started without Jeff, and I'd known Rob Smith from Train Dodge, Riddle of Steel, Roma 79, a couple other bands. I've known him for a long time. We kind of got to know each other back when I was in Colorado and he was in Oklahoma City. And that's where Train Dodge is from. And he was also in the Life and Times, but he's been playing in Midwest bands for a long time. And my band from Colorado called St. Elias, we played shows together. And it was that type of thing, where you see each other in town whenever you play shows. And then you go in different directions. And you get a sense where you're like, oh, we would hang out and we would probably play music together, but it didn't work out. We were thousands of miles away. But we actually got to be a little bit better friends where he would come out and ski in Colorado. My day job, I'm an outdoor adventure travel writer. And so would sometimes go on these crazy trips and he would join me. And so I just got to know him really well, but the opportunity to play music wasn't there till I moved to Seattle first in like 2011. He moved probably 6 or 7 years later, maybe 2015 or 2016. And at that point, we started playing music together, and we were in one band that was around for a good 3 or 4 years called Support Group, where I got together with some other friends, dudes who were in St. Elias, actually. I think we expected it to be like, oh, a bunch of heavy, tough guys get tough. And then it ended up sounding much more like, I don't know, Tears for Fears or Real Estate. We were just kind of in like this heavy pop phase. So we kind of, it was not exactly what we had counted on, but we really enjoyed it. And then, that band kind of cooled down the way bands do. But Rob and I still wanted to play together. And so we actually tried a bunch of things. We probably spent about 2 years woodshedding and figuring out what we wanted to sound like. There were a couple different combinations of people who came in and out. It was really kind of like the world is wide open. And then what we stumbled on is we're like, there's obviously a very fertile, heavy music scene in Seattle, and we love that stuff. But we're kind of like idiosyncratic. Like I didn't come up in metal. I mean, Rob did, as a kid, he was a big metal fan, but I didn't come up in like hardcore metal or things like that. I became a fan later and found my way backwards through it. I was much more of like a touch and go Discord kind of guy, and so I found my way back into it, and it kind of became this exploration of like, there are always these moments within heavy music where it gets to the breakdown or it gets to the part where you're waiting for, and it's like, oh hell yeah, and we're like, what if we just played that part? What if you just got to that part, which keeps the song structures pretty short. And then the other thing is that we're not a bunch of angry guys. So we were like, what if it came from a place of like joy and peace and things like that. And that's just kind of how we ended up on this like big, heavy, crushing stuff broken up by these like ambient passages and like some people joke that we're like, I don't know, we've been called like Unsane meets Enya or something like that, because or Torch meets Enya, because you get that kind of heavier thing, but then there's this like lighter touch in the passages, and so that's we kind of had this woodshed of ideas, and then a good friend of ours, and Travis Duenas, who's in a band called Programs, he jumped in to play bass with us and on Horizon. Great player, super good dude. He just ended up moving to New Mexico. He has like a really interesting history. He was in the Secret Service, and he got a job at Los Alamos National Labs. He's now head of security there. So we joke that he's got all the info
He's
on.
the
He
alien
is.
guy. Yeah.
Yeah, he would have answered the UAP thing right away because he knows that they're real. But yeah,
I know
great
they're
dude.
fucking real too. I just don't work there.
Exactly. So great guy. But he left, and we kind of like cycled through a couple options. Another friend of ours named Zeke did a stint for a while. And then, yeah, Jeff was in another band. So Horizon had come out at that point. But, right as the record was coming out, that's basically when, first of all, we finished Horizon February of 2020. We were literally late February. We were literally driving back through, I believe, Sacramento County, where community spread happened first, and they're like, or one of the first places, and we're like, do we need to worry about this? And so it just kind of shut down both the release of the record, Travis leaving, and so it took a while, even though we'd had this record in the can, it took a while to actually get out on the road, and then to get kind of our forever bassist who's going to do it. And we met Jeff. We met Jeff finally in I believe at our release show. Around then we played with, or just after his release show, we played with his band Fixtures, and at the time it was just like, that guy's freaking great. And then Zeke had to leave, and I think I mentioned it casually, and Bartlett, his name's Jeff, we call him Bartlett. My brother's name Jeff too, so it gets confusing. We asked Bartlett if he would, you kind of were like, well, if you need a guy, we're like, whoa, we had no idea you'd be available, but that guy rips, and jumped in. And so you basically learned Horizon in an instant. Travis is an amazing player, but you really made them your own too. And then you started writing and learning what Diviner songs we had first, which is awesome, because for a minute, because we'd been through a couple bassists before we found Travis, and then after Z, we were kind of not sure what to do. We kind of messed around with like, well, do we want to be even weirder? Like maybe I'll run through a bass rig or something. And I was doing that for a while. And so it was an amazing relief to be like, not only is he an incredible player, but he like gets these songs, really puts a stamp on it, and really kind of pushes us to other places, especially on Diviner. And yeah, like I said, I think you put your stamp on Horizon too. But yeah, you like to joke that you're just a bass player, but like, I don't know, for me, and I know for Rob, bass is so important to what we do. It's such a, there's a lot of heavy music where bass maybe isn't the emphasis. And when it comes to bass, we take a lot more inspiration from like noise rock bands. Those are the kind of things like Unsane and Helmet and Generation Vipers, things where we really care, Converge, hardcore, things where we really care about bass tones, and it really, even if it's simple, the little taste touches really drive what we do, and you do that so well, and it's really cool that I'm talking about it for you. So
Yeah. Like,
why am I here? Like, for the record, my wife also calls me Bartlett, so we're not even really skipping a step here. Yeah, I guess it was kind of a blitz, right? I mean, I joined this band and I learned kind of all the Horizon songs within a couple of weeks to play a gig. And I remember it being very quickly like, all right, well, here's the story. It's April. We're going to record in Norway in September, and we have like these, 20 songs that we need you to learn, or 16 songs, or whatever it ended up being. And I just remember it being a little bit of a whirlwind where we did that. And I think it worked out, although I'm looking forward to maybe doing it differently on the next one, where I'm there from day zero. It's not a cram session, so to speak.
we certainly put you through the ringer. We were like, you were up for it, and you're like, cool. You have 1 month until your first show with Sandrider. It's a sold out show, no pressure, cool. And then you have 6 months until we go forward. luckily we could package that into the conversation. So I think you were up for it, and you were certainly prepared for all of those things. So it worked out pretty amazing.
So was Diviner like mostly written and Jeff just, or sorry, Bartlett just had to kind of throw things in there, or
It's a bit of a mix of both. I think if I had to do it over again, we would have maybe had more of a cohesive uh, album already set up and a cohesive process. But I think because there were so many phases, I think we'd started writing some of what would get on Diviner with Travis before we left. Because, like I said, Horizon was done in, you know, I think we were done mixing probably in May of 2020, deep pandemic, but we weren't releasing it. We weren't touring behind it. Everybody was trying to figure out what to do. We weren't even playing local shows. So, of course, by the time we were comfortable getting back together, but we couldn't play shows. We were writing some songs for Travis before he ended up leaving. So I'd say like a third of the songs were written with him, maybe half. A few more were written without him, like without Bartlett in the band, and a few were written in the short time that Bartlett had joined the band, but before we'd gotten to Norway. So there was a mix. But then another issue was because we were going to Norway, it's a big deal to get out there. We wanted to make it worth our time, so we went with 2 albums worth of material, and we're like, we'll sort it out. If I had to do it over again, because Scott Evans, the guy who produces it, he's really good at keeping the trains running on time. He's like, we got all this material, we're gonna get through it. And so it was pretty breakneck. And if I had to do it over, I would have focused on maybe 1 album's worth of material. So we actually do have a lot of other songs in various stages of completion that I'm sure we'll do something with one day. But coming out of Norway, we were kind of like, okay, the basics of what we want are here, but now we really need to prioritize and figure out what the album is going to be. And then we had another recording session with my brother, who's Jeff Alvarez, he's also a sound engineer and really great at what he does. So we did some finishing things with him once we kind of knew, hey, these are the songs that are going to be Divine, and that would have been probably a better process to do at the outset, but I'm really glad that it worked out the way it worked out. Just
it became a different thing, right? Like it became, I think, what we thought we were going to Norway with and what we came back with were very different. And part of that's because we went with too many songs and ended up having to make some pretty tough cuts about what was going to make it onto the record as we sorted out the order of the record. But certainly, I couldn't have imagined what we have was what we were going to be making when we went there. I don't know if you and Rob feel differently or not.
Well, kind of what you brought up earlier, Tom, where you before you joined Bartlett, we talked a bit about the album format. I think we did a deep dive on Horizon and how it plays like an old school album. And I mentioned that Diviner is even more like that. Diviner is even more meant to be this cohesive side A, side B. We're in the 70s, long playing albums are king. Pink Floyd still on the charts. Like, we made it even more intentionally that way. And that really didn't materialize until after we got through it. But we knew we wanted to go there. So I kind of forgot the original question. I lost my train of thought a little bit, but yeah.
well, I think it just started as like, how was the creation of it with Bartlett coming into the mix, right? So
Yeah. Oh,
obviously,
yeah. Okay.
so you
I
guys
remember what I was going to say.
go ahead.
What I was going to say is that we recorded songs when we recorded all 22 songs. Like some of those songs, I would say, are of equal quality to what ended up making Diviner. Like they're badass songs. You just couldn't make them fit into that album format. Like either the flow wasn't right or we didn't have the right segue or um, this time, Horizon has many different voices, like those spoken word passages.
Yeah.
And for the Diviner, we have just one. We have a poet friend of the band who provided some poetry, which is fantastic. And so we just used that. So maybe it didn't match with that, etc. So we really had to pick and choose, which means that a bunch of great songs didn't make the album. Those will see the light of day. We'll use them as who knows, next album, EP, digital singles, whatever the case may be. But it just meant like we had to really kill some of our darlings, at least for Divine, and we're like, damn, I freaking love this song, but it just you can't fit it.
Yeah, but you didn't necessarily kill them, right? Because
No, no.
you've still got them, and you can build on them, moving
Mhm.
forward. And to have another, 11 songs or whatever, like
Mhm.
ready to go is huge for a band. Like, what I'm sure you guys remember, growing up, you always hear about these lost albums or these lost recordings. And like,
Mhm.
I was having a conversation with a guy today about a band that was releasing something back in '02, '03, something like that. And there's a bunch of legal shit popped up. So it's like this lost album. And I'm like, how can we fucking make it happen where this album actually comes out? Like, what, so like, for you guys to have that, maybe you hold on
Yeah,
to it for fucking 10 years. And in
we
10
joked about
years, it's
that.
like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah, we joked about that too. Where we're like, oh, this will be the secret album, the one that we like refuse to release, because we like the songs obviously, but we can pretend we refuse to release it and then secretly leak it somehow.
well, yeah, we'll make up some big story behind it, like
Yeah, we'll pretend to be angry, and then when Tom Robbins releases it.
the masters were stolen. Tom stole the masters and leaked them,
Exactly,
that motherfucker.
exactly.
So who did the art on the album? And what does the LP art look like? Is it gatefold or insert?
It's an insert, not a gatefold. I think we would love to get to that place. Maybe that's album three, but yeah, it's an insert, and we really liked the first art, and so we wanted some continuity. So it's the same artist, Eric Fisher. It's a really amazing artist from Seattle. He's also in a really great band called Constant Lovers, and he does a lot of branding for restaurants, interior design, but then he's a visual artist who sells pieces of art. And Horizon, we actually licensed something that he'd already made. And so this time we really wanted him to come up with something custom, like, hey, listen to the record. What does it make you feel? What does it make you think? And build something based on that. And so that's what he did. And we were completely blown away by what he did. He just had this really unique visual sensibility that we are all really into. And so, yeah, so Eric Fisher did it, and he's just, I cannot recommend him enough. And he's also a master of styles, where I think I'd say that Diviner's not too far from what he does, his kind of like fine art style, like what he put in a gallery showing. It's not too far from that. He can do anything. I've seen him do so many things that are outside of his style too. He's really incredible. Great dude to work with for sure.
That always, those fucking artists always blow my mind. When I wanted to draw as a kid, and I'm fucking
Mhm.
terrible. My stick
Yeah, me
man
too.
never doesn't end up like a stick man. I don't know what happens, but I've got a buddy, Shane Simmons, who I'm like, hey, can you draw this? He's like, yeah, bloop, there you go. And I'm like, how the fuck? Like,
It's I don't get it. And he's also so fast that it's scary. Like we needed different covers for the singles, and we're like, let's have a variation of this, like this, and he'll in a couple of days he'll just kind of like pull it out of our brain and make it. And we're like, I mean, he's a professional, that's how, but it's still amazing to see him
yeah, yeah, it's fucking cool. I guess he probably looks at people who make music the same, right? Like, man, I wish I
Except he's a fantastic guitarist. He's in this band called Constant Lovers. He's so good. He played, I believe, with Damien Jurado, maybe. He's just incredible. He's just incredible. He can really do everything. He's yeah. I'm basically like, it's good that he doesn't want that I know to be in this band, because it could just be like, or I can take over your spot because I can do everything.
you're
So
like, hold on, no, hold on,
yeah,
just
yeah,
the art.
exactly.
What
Yeah,
fuck?
yeah.
So, what do you see as like a major difference between like Horizon and Diviner?
You want to go first, Bartlett, since you're the new one?
Yeah, I mean, it's I think I think the heavier parts are maybe heavier and the prettier parts are maybe prettier, and there's sort of more of a dynamic between those two. I don't want to say that Horizon wasn't dynamic, but I think like going in, that's kind of what it sounded like to us. I'm curious to see if that's what it sounds like to people who are fans of Horizon or people who maybe haven't heard our band at all. And I think there's some additional layers. Ted mentioned Amelia, the poet. Ted's sister, Alyssa, does some really cool, like kind of vocal drones and stacked sort of choir-esque vocals on the record that add a depth that to those songs that is not present on the previous record. So I think there's growth beyond Horizon without sort of losing the core of what Horizon is and what this band is. Did I take all of your answers in one shot, or did I leave you anything?
You took most of them, but you left a few. I think we also like we I know going into to recording it even before Jeff joined the band, Rob and I were kind of like, every band thinks that they're pushing themselves much farther than they actually are, much further than they actually are, and then you end up, not too much farther than the last record, and that's kind of like the question. I think any band, you're like, cool, this is like a follow up. Do you do what really worked before, or what you think worked before, and risk repeating yourself, or do you push yourself into something kind of like way out there and way different? And it's not like we introduced horns or anything like that, but I think we were consciously like, well, let's push ourselves, what we think is 60% beyond what we do, knowing that in reality you'll end up 20-30% beyond what you
Yeah.
do. And it'll hopefully be an enhancement and an enrichment. And again, kind of like back to that whole unified album thing. On Horizon, we have synth drones and sort of like ambient little guitar parts that we used as connective tissue. And we did that again this time with the addition of my sister's vocals. He's kind of like we're basically like, instead of relying on keyboards, what if we had vocals almost replacing synth, like sort of impossible vocals where you take one and stack it with like 8 harmonies, and so then that becomes like a unifying thing, song to song, that you hear in almost every song, in almost all of the interstitials, and that was like a value that I think pushed us pretty far from what we've done before. And again, this when Bartlett says heavy parts heavier, prettier parts pretty, I think we do definitely take some chances with some. We've never been like a roaring band, like we sing, but we've got some like singing parts that are like pretty exposed. Where you're like, oh, that's just me singing along to a guitar. But then the hammer drops and the whole band comes in. It's almost bigger and more crushing. And I think the fact that we recorded in Norway just like cannot help but influence that album. We did end up rewriting things on the spot and kind of editing a few things. And some of that was just inspired by looking out on this crazy landscape and just experiencing where you are and feeling inspired. I think there's pressure in any sort of record, but we probably felt more inspired than we felt pressured, I think, overall. And that was good. We gave ourselves like plenty of time, like 9 days out there. So, well, for some, it's not Metallica plenty of time, but it's an indie band plenty of time to try
It's a
and get
Metallica
some.
kill 'em all plenty of time.
Exactly. And so it like really that gave us the time to breathe a little bit. Like I said, there's still amount of pressure because of the 20 songs. I think like halfway through the sessions, we were like, maybe we ditch half of these. But I think because a lot of those songs were pretty good, Scott was like, we're ditching nothing. We're doing them all. And so we were working from like 10 to 10 pretty consistently every day.
Holy shit, that's a long day of recording.
Yeah, it's a big day, and you get burned out. But like I said, that's where we're like, cool. We're gonna take a walk on the beach and stare at a fjord and watch the seals and things like that. And that goes a long way towards kind of restoring you a little bit.
For sure.
Plus, Scott is like a joy to work with. Like he's the perfect balance of he's like good cop, bad cop in one person, where he knows where to like
Schizophrenic.
yeah, he knows where to nurture and encourage you, and then he knows when to be like, okay, let's stop fucking around and get this done. So
It,
How
the idea of scrapping songs too, like when we tracked live in the room the first couple days, like we had done the bones for all those songs. So on day 5, when you're kind of looking at the schedule, starting to worry about whether you can wrap everything up, it's not a matter of like should we even start on the 14th song or not? The bones of that song are done, and we already knew that we had a good take. So now it's like, well, do you put in the extra work to finish it? And you had somebody like Scott basically saying, well, yeah, since you've already got it two-thirds of the way there, let's get this thing over the goal line. And some of those ended up making it onto the record, right? I mean, it was just kind of a,
Yeah.
yeah, part of the experience.
And Scott was very much like, we're finishing this. And I think we went with him maybe 75% of the time. But then I think consciously there was 25% where we're like, look, we just need more time with this. And a lot of that was ambient, some sort of the connective tissue, and then some of the vocals even we kind of were like, we could do better. We can retake some of these vocals. And that's when we had a second session out in Washington with my brother, which turned out to be pretty essential because even though the bones were all there in Norway, I think the second time we went out to a cabin on Hood Canal out on the peninsula, kind of maybe 2 hours, 2.5 hours from Seattle. So still, you're a little bit away from your hometown. You can kind of immerse yourself over a long weekend. And that's pretty essential because that was like the point was not to be structured and getting takes. It was like, let's be loose, let's be experimental, let's come up with all of the soft things that then really give you a sense of what the record is going to look like when it's finished. And I think Norway was such a whirlwind that coming out of that, we're like, no, I don't know. Like, did we do it? I have no idea. Like, I did a lot, but I don't know if we did it. And then after that session in Washington, that's when we were like, okay, things are finally coming into focus as to what we're doing. I think for you, Bartlett, too, there were enough songs on Horizon that it was like, okay, it's your interpretation of a part, but that part does exist in some form. You're tweaking it and you're making it yours. Whereas that experimental weekend, we are asking you to go nuts on bass and create all kinds of textures and things that tap into a kind of creativity that are very different from learn these songs, play these songs, do it your way, have your own freedom, let the songs have the structure, that they have.
Yeah. Create now, go. Oh
Yes,
shit.
dude.
It worked. I can't fault the process because it came out great. So obviously what we did worked out okay. But yeah, it's hard to imagine going in like how something's gonna go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Especially having to create it, and being, relatively new to the process, 6 months in and recording, you're like, holy fuck, hold on. Like I still got to get my feet, but it's,
Yeah.
Like you said, trial by fire, you sink or swim, and it sounds like you all are pleased with it. I'm excited to hear the finished product. I know I'm pleased with Horizons. I can only imagine where Diviner's going to go.
We're really pleased with it. I mean, yeah, I'm so glad you dig Horizon. And I think there's always like the internalized, like, it kind of goes back to that thing. You're like, how far are you pushing yourself as a band? So is that internalized thing of like, ooh, will the people who like Horizon like this, or is it going to be weird? Are they going to be like, oh, there's a girl's voice on this now, or which I don't think anybody's that closed-minded and never they'll think that, but
hold on, don't sell people short. Someone's probably that close-minded, like.
You never know. You never know. Or, anytime you put music out there, you're like exposing yourself. So, we're lucky enough to have a few people really like Horizon. So it's like, oh, they can be like, this is too different. I don't like this. But at the end of the day, it's like, well, it's like what we talked about earlier. We're pleasing ourselves. We're doing what we want to do. I think the on-ramps from Horizon to Divine are pretty obvious. It's probably not as far apart in reality as it feels like. So,
Well, if we look back at like music as a whole, there are, I think, a lot of bands that each album, when you listen to it, it has you listen to a song off of any album and oh, that's off of this album because the album has a very specific sound. So they're all different, in some way. And, like one of the first ones that comes to mind is Deftones. They've done really well with constantly, I don't want to call it constant reinvention, but always pushing the boundaries and always creating something new. And they're, shit. Now they're playing. The last time I saw them, which was last year, the year before, I think it was like an 8,000 cap place, and now
Mhm.
they're playing a 22,000 seat venue.
Yeah, they're Deftones. They're definitely. I think I'd agree. They're one of those bands where they're continually pushing what they do, but then they always sound like themselves. And they have. I mean, whether you like Deftones or not, I think that is like a dream for any band. It could be like we get to push ourselves, but then we sound like ourselves. So the people who are engaged with us are just really excited to see what we do. And and they have a broad enough career that probably every Deftones fan, or you could think of bands like Deftones or Radiohead or things like that, which far be it to compare yourself to those bands, but I think anybody dreams of being like, oh, I would love to. Actually, Rob is in his other band, Train Dodge, is like this, where there's a lot of variety within what Train Dodge does, and you can talk to um, 10 different Train Dodge listeners and get 10 different answers about what their favorite record is because they are themselves, but then they do something very different with each record. And so someone can say The Truth is my favorite record, Lake of Dead Trees, or, with Deftones, you can say Coronary John's my favorite. I like Self-Titled, the one that most people hate, or whatever. You you can take so many things from them,
Yeah.
but they're always themselves. I think that's the kind of career, obviously, we love to look back and say, look at these 5 records. It sounds like Museum of Light, but hopefully there's something different. And even if those experiments don't work, they swung for the fences.
Yeah, not like obviously the only thing I've heard so far is Blunt Force Drama off of Diviner, and I feel like although different album, it does sound a little bit different than Horizon, a little bit heavier. Um, I but it still sounds like Museum of Light. Like it's not you guys didn't come out and do Horizon and then come back and do a Bad Religion song. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, that's good to hear. It's only been out for 2 weeks and the response has been really, really good. But you're also like, oh, well, here we go. Like how are they going to react to it? And so that's awesome. That's great to hear that it kind of feels like it's still connected to all that stuff.
for sure. Well, I mean, it's essentially the same musicians, with the addition of Bartlett, obviously. But, you know, like I said, I can't tell you how excited I am to get Diviner and actually just like sit down and listen to it on vinyl, from start to finish.
Awesome. We're excited for people to do that too, because again, it's weird. I think we have another single coming out, and you're kind of like, oh, hey, check out this single. But then it's what you do. You're getting the song around. You can't be. I suppose you could try and say, here's the entire album, listen to it all. But that might not be how the world works. So of course, we are excited for people to experience it that way, kind of the way that was intended.
Intended, yeah. Well, I mean, I think the world works the way you want it to work. If you want to say fuck the singles and throw a whole album out there, I mean, apparently you got a second album ready to go, or a third album ready to
Yeah,
go. So
yeah. I don't think Spartan Records would be cool if we said no singles, just the record.
just
That might have
record. They'd
Right.
be
that might have
pissed.
Here's side A. What's your first single? It's this 21-minute long passage. Yeah, it's side A.
the
Here
whole
you
thing.
go.
Yeah, I mean Sumac can get away with that. Sumac can put out a 20. They're like, we're just doing this song is 21 minutes long, so and it
Well, who
rips.
else? I mean, Sleep did that too. They did what, a whole album
Yeah,
that was essentially
yeah.
one song. So
And some of that's on us too, because like again, like I said, we value precision, and I think like a lot of bands do a fantastic job at having these like epic suites that are very, very long and like take you on this journey. But I think Rob and I and probably Bartlett too, we also have this like pop sensibility that we just can't shake from the back of our head, which is that like actually we do want to craft these like miniature epics, or at least that's what we want to reach for. And that's so we do that too. Even though we've crafted the whole side for you to listen to, like each song is like pretty short and pretty digestible, and hopefully goes places. And I think anytime we write something that's probably more than 5 minutes, we're like, it better be worth your time. Like we don't necessarily want to like repeat a motif over and over or just build a thing and that's the whole thing. Plenty of bands, you know, Mogwai, Russian Circles, Bartlett, you can think of plenty of bands that do that really, really well.
Yeah.
So we don't need to be doing, you know.
There is one song on Diviner that is longer than 5 minutes. I just looked, and it is 5 minutes and 5 seconds. So we broke our own rule once.
Well,
So
that's the thing
hope it was
too.
worth it.
You gotta break the rules, dude.
They're made to be
Yeah.
broken, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. Well, I mean, like you said, yeah, I'm sure 5 minutes and 5 seconds, it's worth it. It's worth
Still
it to
pretty
the
sure.
listener.
We probably could have trimmed 7 seconds from that one tape. We screwed this one up.
Okay, we'll work on that live. We'll just kick it up a couple BPM,
Hold
get it
on.
under five.
I want to see a fist fight over this. Let's do
Yeah,
something like five bagger.
the, the
We're
angry.
keeping
So I think we're lucky in that we're all like pretty even keel people who like maybe we back in May, we were all in touring bands to some degree, or more. I mean, Rob especially, but you too, Bartlett, going on these massive tours, and then you get a little bit older, settle, and then now we're kind of in this phase where we're like, oh, we have the opportunity to do it again, and so we kind of leapt in foot, with both feet and did a 3 weekish tour back in May last year, and we know each other, but you really get to know each other on tour, and so that 3 weeker, we're like, I hope we don't tear each other's eyes out by the end of it. And luckily, it went really, really well. I think so. We learned all of our quirks for sure, but yeah, I don't. Hopefully, we're talk it out and not beat the crap out of each other, kind of
yeah.
thing.
Well,
I don't remember anything much more dramatic than me trying to find vegetarian food in Texas. Other than that, I think it was pretty even keel.
Yeah, and that was more rural Texas's fault. That was less your fault. So,
yeah. I mean, the only thing I know about Texas is the Big Texan.
well, I can say that as a Texan. I'm actually from Texas, so as a quasi suburban rural Texan, I can tell you sometimes shit's hard out there for vegetarians, man.
Yep. They're like, I got you vegan beef. All the cow eats is grass. They're like,
Yeah, yeah. What are you complaining about? But yeah. Other than that, and then getting. Oh man, you want a terrible tour story? We were stuck on I-35 after a multi-car explosive car wreck, which is tragic. So our things nothing compared, but we were stuck. And then after that wreck, in the subsequent fender bender, someone with a case of road rage shot somebody, and so we were stuck on I-35 for about 4.5 hours. We made the gig. We were supposed to play at like 10 p.m. We made it at 11:30. Almost everyone had left. Kudos to the sound guy and the venue and the few stragglers who were there. They're like, "Fuck it, you're here, play." So we threw our shit on stage. A couple of the bands who were there stayed, which was super sweet of them. So we played at 11:30. It was kind of like our redemptive thing of like, God damn it, we're playing for 10 people at 11:30. We don't fucking care after this nightmarish day, stuck on the road. But that was another place where we all rallied together, to make the best of it.
what a fucking terrible, terrible story for those people who on the road that weren't you
It,
guys.
it's it was fairly awful. I mean, like I said, like what happened. One of the bands on the road with us, they turned back just because they were like, we were kind of stuck where it would have taken us it would have taken us the same amount of time to try and press on to Austin, or to try and go back to Oklahoma City where we were gonna stay and play the next night. We're like, well, shit, we'll take a chance and we'll try and play the show. Some show must go on type shit.
Fuck. So I'm gonna ask you this. I've never been to Norway. When you guys were in Norway, did you like go and venture out and get some crazy Norwegian food?
Go first, Bartlett, if you wish.
Crazy Norwegian food, no, because I'm a vegetarian and kind of a chicken. So I didn't eat particularly adventurous. We did get to do. Ted probably had the most Norway adventure, which is why he's saving himself for last. I think When I proposed this to my wife that we were going to fly to Norway to record an album for 8 or 9 days, whatever it was, we basically agreed that we're just going to go early and stay late, and we would sort of travel in Norway. So it ended up being this interesting scenario where we went out, we kind of drove around and did some cool hikes and things, and took a lot of photos a couple of days before the session. We did that the days after the session as well, and it turned into kind of a funny point mid-session where as the bass player, I was basically done by day three or whatever it was. Watching these guys kind of do the vocals and overdubs and things like that. And so I'm sort of on the control room couch all day, annoying Scott. And meanwhile, my wife is like cavorting about in the sort of the Arctic Circle, not maybe not quite Arctic Circle, but she's like traveling all over Norway and sending me all these amazing photos. And it's just like, oh, cool. I'm on the couch watching Ted do some vocal takes. It ended up being like sort of contributing to my cabin fever.
Looking at the back of Scott's head, this is great.
And
Thanks for the
yeah,
photos.
that was a new experience, I think, for you. And maybe because like you're like, well, there's no way I'm nailing my bass ticks in 2 days. And then we're like, well, there is a way. You are that good. You're done with bass in 2 days. Now you have 7 days to watch other people fuck up over and over, or to go enjoy whatever you're going to do. So you are a victim of your own success because you are as good as you are. You're like, now I'm going stir crazy, which who knew? I mean, I could have told you that would happen, but you had to learn that the hard way. I went to Norway earlier, but my adventure happened the week before, so I went up to above the Arctic Circle on assignment actually, and went to this island called Senja and a really cool Arctic city called Tromsø, and then the Floating Islands, which are kind of like Instagram famous, and there's all kinds of amazing food. Like every town up there has been fishing for like 800 years, and so you can find like the freshest halibut and salmon and shellfish. And they're less shellfish, but still plenty of that. Like just really amazing fresh seafood. I'd say the weirdest thing I definitely a lot of reindeer, which is not as weird as you think it is. It's like slightly gamier steak, and all the gas stations, like instead of Slim Jims, they have reindeer sausage, which is pretty good.
That's cool.
But then the hot tip for Norway is the Norwegian kroner is a lot stronger than the dollar, so it's actually pretty expensive. Like beer is probably about 11 US dollars for comparison. Which is that's what it's getting up to in some spots. But at the time, like 11, $12, you kind of want to try and save money. So a big hack is getting gas station hot dogs are cheap and they're fucking delicious. So if you want to travel around Norway and save money, get a gas station hot dog. And then there's lots of dried fish jerky, which is like super fishy. You may be into it, you may not. And the strangest thing I had, which I didn't intentionally order, it just came on like a sampler platter because it's semi-controversial, was whale meat. It was like cured whale meat, which Norway and I think Japan and maybe Iceland are the only countries that defy the international whaling ban. They're like, this is our heritage. We're gonna eat a certain amount of whales. So I ended up with the whale meat. I'm like, I don't want it to go to waste. I'm gonna try it. It's pretty good. It's a little weird. Imagine like it was like a beef carpaccio, sort of like a cured beef, but with an ever so slight like salmon overtone is what it tasted like.
Okay.
So kind of weird, kind of good. It's one of those things that's like really hard to enjoy because you're like, I am eating a whale, and
The
you have a
ethics
hard time
behind it. Yeah.
you have a hard time not thinking about it while you're doing it. But that's the strangest thing. But luckily, it's like cold country, so they have awesome coffee everywhere, which is really important to me. So that was cool.
I would try whale. I'm probably not gonna order it, but if it happens to be there,
Mhm.
I'd give it a shot. I'm an
That's what
adventurous eater.
that's what I thought. I was like, I'm not going to order it on purpose. I would, but it ended up there, and so I was like, I'm not gonna refuse it. I don't want it to go to waste. That kind of thing. Also, they have up north they have cloudberries, which are like really hard to find, and they're I don't know it's like an orange raspberry, super delicious. They have it in jams that you put on like toast and breakfast. So like cloud bear is good. Oh, brown cheese. We had brown cheese every day. That's the other thing. Which they have something. It's called brown cheese. Or that's the translation, and it's like it almost tastes like caramel or like slightly savory caramel. It's
Oh,
a it's an it's an I like it, but it's a definitely an acquired taste. Is the brown cheese like this?
okay.
So
Bartlett, did
yeah,
you have any brown cheese?
I did, although I actually, it's funny that I hadn't thought of that when asked about adventurous food. I didn't feel like the brown cheese was super adventurous, just like a nutty cheese. Tom, have you had the brown cheese?
Nope.
I remember the first night we got there, we walked into a hotel and I'd never met Scott Evans, who recording engineer. I'd never met him. And I walked in and you guys were sitting at a table in the hotel lobby, brown, had a piece of brown cheese. It's not like so weird that you tell your friends about it. It just looks weird because, we're not
Wow.
used to cheese being brown, I think would be the way to put
mhm.
that.
Yeah. I think I would think like, oh, it's poopy cheese. What is this about? I
Yeah,
would try it, but
I'm not like
It, look,
altered for life now because I've had the brown cheese and I'm like,
you know, it looks weirder than it looks weirder than it tastes. Like it just doesn't taste the way you expect it to taste. You're like, I don't know what this is.
those those foods always, they always fuck me up because, you're like, you look at something, you're like, oh, I know what that's going to taste like. You take a bite and you're like, that is not what I thought at all.
Yeah, yeah.
So, big question, over the next 12 months for Museum of Light, let's say post Diviner, do you guys have goals or thresholds that you'd like to meet or things that you'd like to see happen?
That's a tough one. I mean, I think it existing is a pretty big goal. The fact that it's like out and real is a big goal. I think we always have big goals while also being like modest. We have day jobs and families and things like that to take care of. We've been fortunate enough to play some really great shows, hook up with great bands like Coalesce and Great Falls and things like that. So Sandrider, so many great bands. And so I think we want to kind of continue this trajectory where we're like, let's do as much as we possibly can while maintaining our quality of life and connections to friends and things like that. I think we talked about playing a couple of festivals. That's like a big goal of ours to maybe try and do. Um, I know we'd like to get out on the road behind the record a little bit. That's pretty important to us. We're not at the stage where we necessarily need to like road dog it for 3 months to prove it to ourselves. And again, with families and kids and responsibilities, it's just like that's not fair to them. And I don't think you actually need to do that in the world anymore necessarily. You can pick and choose your really good spots. But I'm hoping we just can kind of continue this trend of good fortune of just meeting really wonderful people and like really wonderful folks who like the music and bands who are just incredible and we respect and love and that we learn from. They keep asking us to do stuff with them. I think we just kind of want to continue that progression. We've been pretty big on being like, look, we love doing this. We're going to do everything we can, but we're not going to like force it in any kind of way. We're going to do what feels natural and right. So probably just continuing in that perspective. I think hitting cities we've never been to is a fun thing to do just because every time we've done that, it's usually really, really rewarding. So we really like to try and do that. Bartlett's from the Northeast. I think it'll be really cool to go hang out and play shows in the Northeast. I lived there for a while, so the place is special for me. So I think spending time up there would be really cool. So yeah, stuff like that. Maybe get overseas. That's obviously a big goal, but it's possible. And we've seen friends like Great Falls to great success, and so Sandrider is going to Hellfest soon. I don't know how far that is in the future. You sort of have to kind of wait and keep your ears to the ground for when is the right time and when it's a fit. But I think that's all an exciting idea or something to reach.
I think that's, I think that's a fair way to look at it, especially, you start getting older and priorities change from, man, this band has got to make it, or I really want this band to, sell stadiums or arenas or whatever to, let's fucking have fun with it. And
Mhm.
if we'll do a little bit here and there and enjoy life, and shit pops up,
Yeah,
yeah, we can attack it.
yeah, and very little of what very little of what we've done has ever been pitched that way. Like we're doing this thing so that we get to X place. It's like we've just been like, we love doing this and we love doing it this way, and we love feeling really excited every day to show up. Bartlett, for instance, it's a sacrifice for you to even come to freaking rehearsal. He lives in a town that's like, depending on traffic, an hour to an hour and a half outside of Seattle. Like, so for you to drive in every week, which we appreciate, to play music, it better be worth it. Like you better be getting something out of it. And I don't think careerist goals necessarily are going to do it for you. The artistic stuff, the humane. This is how we connect as humans. Like those are the things that really, really drive us at the end of
Yeah.
the day.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely wouldn't do that if I didn't think the band was good, right? And if I wasn't having fun and connecting with the people in the band. I would also say that like we're all just kind of fucking down for shit, right? Like, I mean, we all flew to San Francisco to play one show with Rob's other band, Roma 79, which I think, you just have to be willing to go like, yeah, I'll get in a plane and fly with my guitar to, the Bay Area for one gig. So we're just kind of in a place where like when those opportunities come up, we're excited about what we're doing, and we're kind of dumb enough to say yes in a lot of cases. And I think that probably, maybe leads to some opportunities. But if it's fun, it's fun. If we're having fun, we're going to keep doing what we're doing. And I don't think anybody has any real like ink on paper goals at this point.
Yeah.
We're also old enough to have learned, especially you, Bartlett, and Rob. Also, I've toured some, but you guys especially have done the like, well, we've done the go on the road to crash in the press punk basement and try and figure out how you're going to stretch a $5 over 3 days to eat. We've learned from all that, and we're like, oh, you don't have to do it that way. Like maybe you do it when you can afford like hotels and the shows are going to be good, and you're not necessarily running yourselves into the ground, and you prioritize getting sleep over like partying all night or whatever the heck. So like we've kind of hopefully figured those things out, and they're old enough to like make these gigs more humane and take them in.
And it's funny how that changes. Because I
Yeah.
know, 20 years old, you're like, fuck it, man, I'll live in the van. I don't care. Let's go. Then you hit 40 and you're like, man, my back's hurting. I gotta I need a bed. Like, does someone have a bed? 45, you're like, I need a hotel. I want my own
I don't.
space. Fuck everyone
Yeah.
else.
I don't mean to out you, but Coalesce went for these round of Coalesce shows. Bartlett threw his back out just randomly on Christmas Day, and Bartlett famously has the most heavy piece of equipment. Your bass cab is, I feel like there's dark, like if astronomers are still looking for dark matter, they need to check your cab because the density and weight, it definitely has it in there. And so right before these coalesce shows, you're like, I hate to do this to you, but I cannot lift my cab. And so we're like, oh my God, we're gonna have to figure out how to do this. But luckily we had that. Rob and I didn't even have to worry too much about it because we had good friends and homies in every city that we played that helped us with all of our stuff. But that's where we're super fortunate, is that as we're falling apart, homies are coming in to step in and help us lift our heavy stuff.
And if you don't have friends in a town that are going to help you lift the base cabinet, then that's a
We're not
town you got to
playing.
skip.
Yeah, will you come and play our town? Well, will you help us with Bartlett's cab? He threw his back out of it.
They're like, nope, like, cool, Dave, we won't be there. See
Yeah,
ya.
Fine.
you guys are
Get
making this sound great. That's fine. Is there like a way we
Yeah,
can make that happen? That's
yeah.
fantastic.
Bartlett's like,
Sorry,
I'm
Cedar
signing
Rapids.
on for all that shit.
Yeah.
Let's do it. All right, Ted, Bartlett, thank you very much for giving me time out of your night. I
Absolutely.
had a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is great. Thank you so much. We're honored that you wanted to talk to us, and so pleased that we're into the music, and that's, yeah, this is really special. So thank you.
Hell yeah. Like I said, I absolutely pre-ordered Diviner already. I'm really hoping someone goes, I'm going to send an early copy, but I know how that really works. Um,
Oh, yeah, I was like,
so
we would have sent you something. We're still waiting to get them ourselves, but
You don't have them. Yeah, I'm surprised if we had them, I think we probably would have. I don't know what that
absolutely.
timeline looks like yet, but
now
uh,
when it shows up, I'll forget. It's 2 months away from arriving. It'll show up and be like, oh fuck, I totally forgot I ordered this.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's the
We'll
best.
send
That
you.
happens to me all the time. That is the best.
My wife's like,
We'll
another
send.
record. I'm like, yeah, but I forgot when I fucking ordered it. I don't know when it was.
We'll send you your bonus press copy, and then you can just pay it forward to whoever.
I mean, dude, I will totally give one away on my
Well,
socials.
we can do that. That's easy.
Hell yeah. All right. Well, guys, go have a great
All right.
night.
You will
Again,
as
thanks for
well.
your time. I'll talk to you soon.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you,
Good stuff.
Tom.
All right.
All right.
See ya.